your instinct. Don't think, stink, pink gators. My Detroit players, Tim's for my hooligans in Brooklyn. Hello, Minerva DeLand. Mr. Monticelli here with our next Raider Talk podcast. Very excited about this conversation with Anisah Nazario. You say hi, Anisah?
Hi.
So we started these Raider Talk podcasts a couple of years ago at the high school, and the purpose is to just share our collective story, one story at a time, so we can get to know one another, build community. And all of our stories, really, people have very there's common threads among all of our staff and students as we, work through what is, the daily challenges and joys of being in a high school. So our conversation today is going to be about transitions, transitioning to a new building, transitioning to the high school in ninth grade. And, there's obviously challenges to go with that, like with any transition, but especially this year with COVID-19 and, hybrid learning and remote learning. So there's a lot of stressors around that Anisah has so courageously offered to share her story a little bit with us, and very excited to hear that. But before we talk about that, I wanted to get to know you a little bit first, Anisah, and let the Minerva DeLand get to know you. So I like to ask this question in the form of like Mount Rushmore. So the 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore, if you had to pick a Mount Rushmore of music or musical artists, who would they be? Who are your top 4?
So I like to listen to a lot of 90s R&B music. So Brandy, Biggie Smalls, TLC, and for K-pop, I'd say ATEEZ.
Nice. That's awesome. And I'm old, so the 90s were like, that was my jam right there. And I appreciate that a young, cool, contemporary teenager still appreciates the classics. So that's very cool. If I had to name my top 4, it kind of varies. Like I go in waves of music. Like I'll be into something, then I'll be obsessed with that for a while, and then I'll move on to something else. But my classics are really like Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin's one of the all times. Bob Marley. I couldn't go probably 2 weeks without a little Bob Marley in my life. And I've been on a huge Jimi Hendrix kick lately. I've always loved Jimi Hendrix, but something about his music it just opens up your mind a little bit. It's so wild and free, and his guitar playing is phenomenal. So, and I would say Biggie Smalls. That's one of my favorites. I think one of the first things I said to you in the hallway was, "That's a cool shirt. Biggie Smalls rules," right? So very cool. We're already thinking alike here.
Yeah.
So transitioning a little bit to the question, so this is second month in a new school, not just a new building, but a new school district. With all this stuff going on here, kind of how are you doing, and what has your experience been like?
Well, I'd say it's been like very difficult to maintain being, first of all, in high school, because high school is very difficult.
Yeah.
But making new friends, moving to a new place from being in one place for a while, it's hard to deal with, but it's really easy to get used to as well after being here for a while.
That's well said. I mean, you said a lot. That's a huge change. Most people struggle. This is my first year in this building, right? So there's a transition, there's an adjustment. So I can kind of empathize with that, but it's a bigger transition if you don't know anybody. I was in the district before I came here, so I admire how you're handling not just this conversation, but a huge change. What would you say? Well, we're 2 months in, right? The first couple of weeks probably were really tough, right?
Yeah.
What have you done to get from like the really hard first 2 weeks to now things are a little better?
Well, firstly, believing in myself and having confidence is a big thing that revolves around that. Like believing in yourself and being happy with your work and trying hard is something that you need to do to maintain high school.
Again, so simply said, but so powerful. Believe in yourself, right? If you don't have confidence, if you don't believe in yourself, nothing else really is going to happen for you. That's where everything starts. So to your credit, I have the same conversations all the time with myself, sometimes with my children, and with anybody I talk to. If you don't believe in you, then it's going to be really hard to find success, whether it's school, academics, music, whatever you're into. You got to believe, then you got to, as you said, work at it, right? You're not just going to believe in yourself because you woke up one day and said, I want to try to pick this up. You got to believe and work at it. So that's awesome. I think, what else would you say if people are feeling like they're alone in a new setting? What could they do?
Well, first of all, if you're feeling this way, just know you're never alone because there's people that are supporting you, even if they're not speaking to you or with you physically. Um, but it's okay to have a mental check once in a while and check in with others and see how you're doing, and not even just with others, but with yourself. It's important to speak with yourself and have communication with yourself.
100%. It's same thing you just said, but I like to say you got to give yourself a break sometimes. You can't be like on point, grinding all day, every day. You got to give yourself a minute to chill, talk to yourself, a little positive self-talk, like you got this, or whatever else you might need to get through your day. Maybe it's talking to yourself. And I know you and I talked before this, but what's been really helpful for you, in addition to those things, to kind of learn about, get familiar with the building?
Mm, Having friends and peers and teachers and staff around me that I can ask freely and they won't have a problem with me asking,
Mm-hmm.
and just being respectful about it.
Yeah, for sure. That's reaching out to other people, right? Whether it's friends, getting to know people, reaching out to adults, whether it's a teacher, counselor, um, you know, cafeteria worker. There's people, everybody that works in education cares about people, or else we wouldn't be here,
Yeah.
and everybody wants to help, but maybe doesn't know who needs help or when they need the help. So just reaching out just to say, build those relationships, right? It is huge. And whether it's a trusted adult or whether it's a student or a peer, a lot of people don't really see counselors, like our school counselors, as somebody they should talk to about academic stuff. I think maybe in my mind, I think some students think that, well, if I go to the counselor, it means I have mental health needs, right? Do you think that's the perception for some people, or is it like academic or emotional needs?
It could be both, very well both.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people just need advice with emotional needs and like what they're gonna do for academics and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Absolutely. So again, I couldn't agree more. Your counselors are a great resource. Teachers are a great resource. But it's really just having the courage to build that relationship, get to know somebody a little bit, and ask for help. We talk a lot about the Raider way and the 3 R's, right? Respectful, responsible, and resilient. And the word resilient, what would you say in your words? What does it mean to be resilient?
I'm not sure. I'm not
It's
sure.
okay. It's okay. It's okay. So being resilient, in my mind anyway, means you're able to get through hard times, right? And you see hard times not just as a struggle, but as an opportunity to grow, like the growth mindset. But oftentimes, I think people think of being resilient means be tough and get through it, right? And don't whine, don't be a wimp, just get through it. But what oftentimes people don't realize is that maybe that's part of it. There's a time to push through and work through it, but there's also a time to ask for help and give yourself, like you said, give yourself a minute to just whatever you need, right? So I guess that's my message to you and to everybody is sometimes you just need a minute to be resilient, to be tough. You got to reach out to the people around you that are in it for your well-being, right? And say, hey, can you talk? Or hey, I got a question for you. So that's a huge piece to being successful and getting through a hard time, and just being tough and resilient is reaching out to other people. Well, I super appreciate your courage to be here. You're showing resilience just by having this conversation in front of a microphone and a camera. So to your credit, very proud of you. Any other final messages for your peers if they're going through a tough time?
There's always going to be a light to the darkness that you're in, and it's going to be okay regardless if you're going through something.
Very well said again, man. You are on point, aren't you? So thoughtful, so soulful. I love that. The light in the dark, you said it better than I could, but if you don't go through some hard times, you don't appreciate the good times, right? And like with every night, the sun's going to come up the next day. So get through that moment in time, reach out to people that care about you, and things will be all right. Right. Well, Anisah, thank you so much, and Minerva Deland, Raider Nation. We'll talk soon. Take care, everybody.